Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I decided, based on the articles from yesterday and today, that the war in Ukraine entered the second phase. I mentioned this in one of my videos earlier today, but this is a video in which I will show you why I think the war entered a second phase, and it's gonna be a third one, and then the war will be over. All right? So the first phase is the one that we had right now. Yes, we're gonna help the Ukrainians, but we're not gonna be like that. We do this. The Russians are not gonna use nuclear weapons. We're not gonna have troops on the ground over there, boots on the ground. We're not gonna have those. But we help them as much as we can here and there. $200 billion, not enough. Well, I think that changes. I think the United States of America right now, according to this articles and the evidence and what the Ukrainians are doing, they're going straight into let's go, and we're going to push the Russians back. And when the Russians will be pushed back, they might use we might enter the third phase, which is nuclear weapons use. And after that, all over. The war will stop. Either way, total or stop, because these guys are going to say, okay, the game is over, let's take our toys and stay where we are. So let me show you three articles with three headlines that are the preamble of the articles that I will discuss today, to show you the Ukrainian reaction to what the Americans did yesterday and today. All right, let's start with the first one. I covered this one today. I'm just going to use the title. So you know, prepare. It's introduction. US withdraws from formal Ukraine peace negotiations. They're out, supposedly. But US prepares new sanctions against Russia. And United States approves F-16 training sustainment package sale to Ukraine. The quantity, the number is $310.5 million. So, based on that decision, the three decisions, we're not going to be the mediators, but we're going to go full force in Ukraine. We got the money from where? From your resources, and we're going to keep our, how do you call these guys? Arms manufacturing companies happy. So that's the foundation. And as a reaction, I'm going to show you what the Ukrainians do in order to enter the second phase of the war. Here. New Voice of Ukraine. Ballistic missile program now in Ukraine's top priority. So who do you think is going to provide these guys with ballistic missile programs? Who do you think is going to be that? I tell you right now, the guys who withdrew, the guys who prepare sanctions, and the guys who are going to provide you with that. Next. Zelensky, this is according to Ukr War. Zelensky, United States to work on providing air defense to Ukraine. Got that? So President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, I like that, President of Ukraine instead of the Ukrainian president, it's more accurate, said that during his meeting with US President Donald Trump, he discussed the subsoil agreement, the sale of air defense systems to Ukraine, and the issue of ceasefire. They are talking about the conversation held in the Vatican, which was, how many minutes was it? Half an hour? In those 30 minutes, they discussed all that, including the sanctions on Russia, according to an article that I covered in the previous video today. So remember, their priority is that. And they say more air defense systems will receive. Okay, next one. I got more, my friends. And this is one for the Ukrainians. You're going to love me, my fellow Ukrainians. Why I call you fellow? Because I can. Ukr War. Here, look at this picture. Who's over there? This clown in charge of your nation. Fucking idiots. And this clown. You come and talk to these guys. These guys are unimportant. These are the Ukrainians. These are the ones that are important. They run your country, man. They run your nation. I know people who are just doing like this in their graves, knowing what's going on here. So, Zelensky holds meeting to discuss Ukraine F-16 fleet. So they have a fleet. They're going to want air defense systems, and US will provide. And they will work on the what? ballistic missile program. What does that tell you? It tells you that they got the green light to go on because the American says, now we really do it. We really do it. And probably they will bring troops on the ground at one point, and that's when we enter the third phase. The Russians will use nuclear weapons because they can't fight these guys. If these guys are on a war footing, probably it's going to be a nuclear war, or at least a detonation somewhere. And I'm not done. I have more articles for you, my friends. And I'm going to make my point clearly. We're going to have two more baboons. We're going to have a provocateur, which is Poland and the Baltic states in the Baltic Sea. And then we have the European Union. They all get together. Let me show you the Poles with the bowls first. Ukraińska Prawda. Saturday, 3rd of May 2025. Poland launches military operation after provocations by Russian warplanes over the Baltic. You got it? So, Polish defense minister has announced the launch of a new military operation to strengthen security and control over the airspace of Baltic region, given provocations by Russia. During the ceremony of conferring general ranks on Friday, the defense minister noted that in response to incidents involving Russian aircraft in the Baltic region, international airspace, the Polish armed forces launched a new operation. The operation, which began this week, has deployed additional planes and helicopters to patrol Polish airspace in the north. What do you think will happen? This is a response to the threats we're dealing with, in particular incidents involving us and our allies, the countries in Northern and Baltic Europe, the Polish defense minister said. What does it mean? Well, I guarantee you that an accident will happen, a misunderstanding, and a Russian plane will be struck. Or something. I guarantee you it's going to be like this. Estonia, wasn't Estonia? Estonia seized a Russian vessel of the Russian Shadow Fleet. And the Russians said, we're going to put our navy to protect our ships in the Baltic Sea. Then he said, these guys want to put a de facto blockade on us, which is Kaliningrad and St. Petersburg. I'm going to show you a map where that is located. All right, here it is. So we're talking about Poland here, Russia here. These are the Baltic states. This is Russia, and this is the Baltic states, Baltic Sea. So let me show you. You see about that? Poland. This is Russia right here. This is Kaliningrad. This is Russia, St. Petersburg. So in order to show up here with your vessels, you have to go through all this. Right here. So from the North Sea, you have to go through all these Denmark garbage. Go in here. This is where the pipeline, Nord Stream pipelines were blown up right here. And then go to Kaliningrad. This is Poland right here. Gdansk. Ooh la la, Gdansk. Reminds me of... Okay, and if you go here in order to go to St. Petersburg, if you stop it here in the Gulf of Finland, St. Petersburg is done. Do you think the Russians will allow that to happen? That's a declaration of war. Guarantee you. So the Poles said, we're going to just patrol here on our airspace. Do you think so? I don't think so. You'll see, it's going to be some accident, an incident, a provocation by the Russians, because that's what Russians do, man. They provoke. Why would the Russians provoke? And let me show you Estonia, right? Because we're about Estonia too. This is the big country of Estonia right there. Population 1.3 million people. 1.3 million people, these guys. It's a village. Anyway, so they're provoking, the Russians will fuck them up, and then they're going to start crying. So that's with the Poles. And I'm going to show you the Europeans, thieves. They're thieves. Right here. New voice of Ukraine. Europe, the entire Europe, prepares to dip into frozen Russian cash. Frozen, that is, they took the Russians' assets in Europe, they froze it, but they kept producing like a lady of the night, producing in the street. All right. And from that, they want to give to the Ukrainians. Who decides this? Some European countries, because they think they will never be bombed by the Russians. That's why, if any of those countries who decide to do that will have the certainty that the Russians will nuke them if they freeze their assets, they would have never done it. Never done it. But no, the Russians did not say that a bit. I'm not promoting that. It's just a deterrent, and many political analysts and how should I put them, philosophers like Alexander Dugin, bad guy in Russia, says we have to re-ramp the nuclear deterrent. That means scare the baboons that we're going to use it, because these guys do whatever they want, thinking that we're not going to do anything about them. It's like a child. If you can't do anything to a child to make him clean his room, you have no tools, like, blackmail. Hey, if you don't do this, I'm not going to give you an ice cream, or you're not going to go for a playground with Gigi today. If I don't, or I smack you or something. If you don't have that, and you did it before, the kid was going to do whatever he wants. So how are you going to enforce your threats, your warnings? The same. You touch my frozen assets, I'm going to punch you in the nose. Not even that. The Russian says, we're going to do the same thing to you. No. I tell you this philosophy that I have. If someone punches me one time, I try to knock the shit out of that person. I'm not going to punch with the same level. I tell you why. So this is the level of tranquility between me and Gigi, right? Nothing. We're not enemies. You punch me in the face, from this, you elevate it here. Who says that I should match you there? I was right here. You got there. So I reserve the right to do what the hell I was about to say something about it. So I'm not going to match you. Why should I match you? I'm going to go above you and I will set my standard. I'm not going to match you. My match was right here, tranquility. You went here, I'm going to go here. Oh, when you hear these guys, disproportionate response. Remember, I was down here. This was my proportion. You are disproportionate first. And I will use my balls, if I can, to fuck you up. Right? But the Russians, nah, we're going to retaliate with what? How many assets you got in Russia from Germany, France? 0. But you have over there, so you're basically scratching at the door, not being allowed to go in. Now, let's go to our little baboons here. Did you see that? Ballistic missiles, F-16 fleet. What was the other one? Money coming from the Americans. What was that? Air defense systems. The Poles with the balls are provoking. All of a sudden, this is what happened now. It's not 3 days ago. Now. And then the Europe prepares to dip into that. And it says, Belgian clearinghouse Euroclear plans to distribute around 3 billion euros, this is $3.4 billion worth of frozen Russian assets to Western investors who had their property confiscated by the Kremlin. So the Russians retaliated to those guys, and these guys, no problem, we're going to take it from the Russians and give it to whomever. And right here, it says Euroclear will draw from a total pool of 10 billion euros, $11.3 billion, in cash belonging to sanctioned Russian companies and individuals. In all, the clearinghouse holds more than 180 billion euros, that is $204 billion, in frozen Russian assets. So what would you do if someone like Belgium, these guys located in Belgium, let me show you what Belgium is. Do you know what Belgium is? You know what it is? Right here. Belgium is that little thing right here. Right here. You see that? That's France, that's Germany, that's Belgium. Now, that's Kaliningrad, almost of the same size. I'm just exaggerating. Hey, it's smaller than Estonia. What do you want? So those guys, the clearinghouse from Belgium, said we're going to give it to these guys. What would you do if you were Russians? Do you have submarines? I will locate them on right there. My submarines will be right here in the French channel. I'm sorry, the English channel. Right here I will be located. I'm going to say you got 1 day to shut the fuck up and give me my money back. Oh, that's what I would do. Oh, Emily, you're crazy. What would you do? And if you do something else, then you're in your, you know what I mean. So they are provoking and they're going full force. The Europeans were going already. Now the Americans are doing with the, you remember the introduction with the three articles. The Ukrainians are already planning ahead. Do you think they made a decision last night about ballistic missiles, F-16s, and the air defense systems? Do you think they just, that is from last night? Do you think that they made it right? Oh, buddy, come over here. Let's tell these Ukrainian baboons, since we are aliens, tell them what to do over there. And how about we get some F-16s? ballistic missiles program to hit Moscow, for instance, and then we're going to get what exactly? Air defense system so they can't hit us. Who's going to provide us? The Americans. Do you think that was decided yesterday? They just, I got an idea, man, let's do it. That's been discussed for months, probably for years. We enter the second phase, and the second phase will be a bigger war that we witnessed in these 3 months, 3 years. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.